What's up, my fellow adult collectors, and welcome to Civilian Collectibles. This video is going to be a best of McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse for the year 2023. After my annual top 10 video, I decided I wanted to give McFarlane Toys a little more attention, because as of now, it is the second biggest line I collect. The only thing beating it is wrestling, and that's with Mattel having the WWE license an entire decade longer than McFarlane's had the DC license. The images that you're seeing on the screen now should only be what McFarlane released in the year 2023, and I'm not even sure this is all of them. So there's a lot of really cool, really awesome figures to land on shelves over the past year. However, when I do my annual top 10s, I try to spread those out among all of the brands and lines I collect, so it only left room for 2 McFarlane Toys figures, and with everything we got this year, that just wasn't enough. It didn't do the line justice. So that's what this video is all about. If this is your first time on my channel, hi, my name is Seville, and here I like to discuss action figures and other collectibles based on my favorite movies, TV shows, and video games. If you find this video enjoyable or informative, please give me a thumbs up, don't forget to subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Since I wanted this to be more of a total best of, I decided to go ahead and do a set of 11 through 20. That way I can include some figures that I wouldn't normally put into a top 10, such as Build-A-Figures or figures from 2-packs. So with that in mind, I'm going to start this countdown at number 20, featuring the Bane Build-A-Figure from the Dark Knight wave. Even though this is definitely not my favorite interpretation of Bane, it still looks good for what it is. The same can be said for my number 19 spot, the Mr. Freeze Build-A-Figure from the Batman and Robin wave. I do wish that the armor had more of a chrome or metallic paint job, but beyond that, it is a great representation of this version of the character. Coming in at number 18 is the movie version of Blue Beetle. Honestly, the only reason I disqualified this from my top 10 was because to get all the accessories, you had to buy 2 different versions of the figures. And, while McFarlane definitely got my money doing it that way, I didn't like it. Speaking of paying more money than I really wanted to, next, number 17, is the Action Comics number 1 McFarlane Collector's Edition of Superman. Granted, for the $30 price point, he is throwing in a few more accessories and a trading card stand, but I could really do without the trading card stand if that made it a little bit cheaper. Coming at number 16, I have the Rebirth Superman from the 2-pack in his fight against Ultraman. At first, I was just going to skip this 2-pack because I thought it was nothing more than alternate heads, but then once I realized that the boots were actually painted red, like the second variation of the Rebirth costume, I decided to go ahead and pick it up, at least for this figure. Speaking of 2-packs, coming at number 15 is Doomsday. At first, when I thought this might just be too much of a repaint of the Devastator figure, I was considering skipping it. But once I saw it in person, I had to bring it on home with me. Next up, coming at number 14, is Supergirl, supposedly based on her Rebirth appearance. However, this figure had some issues, like with the legs being solid red versus them having any sort of thigh coloring. And if y'all been watching my channel for a while, you know I don't really care for cloth capes, so I couldn't put it in the top 10. Coming at number 13 is Batman, based on his appearance in Hush, but with the black cowl instead of blue. For me, this is the definitive comic book look of Batman. Only reason I didn't put it in the top 10 is because technically this is a re-release from the Batman Hush 2-pack, but as the single card version. Either way though, I wanted to make sure this figure was on the list somewhere, because for me, this is the best comic book variation of Batman. Coming at number 12 is Sinestro, based on his appearance in the Sinestro Core War. This is another example of the only reason it didn't make the top 10 is because of that $30 price point for the collector's edition figures. And finally, coming in at number 11 is Superman, based on his appearance in the Hush storyline. Only reason I didn't let this one be in the top 10 was because of that skin tone being a little extra pale, which I think is mostly based on him being controlled by Poison Ivy, but if he'd had a little more natural looking flesh tone, it would have been the perfect Superman. Before I get into my actual top 10, I do want to go through some honorable mentions. Now, for me, the main reason they actually did not make any of the top 20 is simply because they are too hard to get. First up, I have the Val Kilmer version of Batman in the Sonar suit from Batman Forever. Personally, this is my favorite Batsuit from any of the movies in the 90s, but the only way to get this figure was in the 6-pack that included all the other Batman actor styles. I didn't really want or need any of the other figures in that pack because there was other ways to get the rest of them. So I ended up getting on eBay to order this and the Bat Signal. Next up is the Platinum Chase version of the quote-unquote Action Comics #1 Superman, but it's really based on his appearance on the cover of Superman #1. I was never lucky enough to find this in my hometown, so it became another eBay order for me. And finally, I have the Michael Keaton version of Batman, specifically the gold label version that came with the '89 Batmobile. I tried catching the Amazon exclusive pre-order twice and failed. Luckily, one of my homeboys managed to catch it and order 2 of them, so he passed one along to me. It's kind of crazy to me that within a single year, really within months, I had to clear an entire shelf to make a Batman movie figure display. I do have the Batbikes from the Robert Pattinson movie, as well as the Ben Affleck version from The Flash. Plus, I've already pre-ordered the Bat Pod with Catwoman, so this shelf is going to get very crowded very quickly. One funny thing I do want to note, there was something very eye-catching about the Batman and Robin figure packages to my cat. Every single time I brought one home, she was trying to break into it. She was holding it. She was laying on it. She thought that was hers. And these are the only ones she's ever done that to. It must have had something to do with the red on the side of the packages, because any other package, she just looked right on over. With all that said, though, now let's get into my top 10, starting, of course, at number 10, featuring Aquaman, based on his appearance in the newest movie, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. I always really appreciate when movie costumes do the best they can to get close to a comic book appearance in a semi-realistic way, and this figure and costume really knocked it out of the park. Coming in at number 9, I have Batman in his Sinestro Corps costume. To me, if Batman was going to have a landing ring, period, this makes the most sense, because he's all about fear, just like the Sinestro Corps. Moving on to number 8, I have the Eradicator, based on his Shockwave appearance. Now, me personally, I do wish they had done this based on the Death and Return of Superman, but I'm happy to have him either way. Coming in at number 7, I have Brainiac, based on his appearance in Injustice 2. Much like the Mr. Freeze figure, my only real complaint about this is that I wish his armor looked more metallic. Rounding out the lower 5, taking the number 6 spot, is the Connor Kent / Connell version of Superboy. Once again, much like the Eradicator, I do wish they'd based this a little more closely on the Death and Return story, but I'm happy to have them in my collection either way. So with that said, we are now getting into my top 5 McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse figures of the year 2023. So, at number 5, I have Shazam, based on his appearance in the Fury of the Gods movie. Once again, just like with Aquaman, this is another case of the movie costume getting as close as it possibly can to the comic book costume without actually being the comic book costume. So, this is an excellent figure and looks great all the way around. Next up, coming at number 4, I have the Tim Drake Robin, based on his 90s comic book appearance with the green tights. To me, this is the definitive Robin. Much like how I said the Hush Batman was the best Batman, to me, this is the best Robin. Anytime someone talks about Robin, this is the appearance I imagine. Taking my number 3 spot is Poison Ivy, based on her appearance in the Batman and Robin movie. Now, to me personally, if they wanted to make a comic book accurate or like an Arkham Asylum version, they could literally just take this body and paint the rest of it green, and it would be as good as it's ever going to get. For me, when it came to that Batman and Robin wave, this was easily the standout figure. The same could be said for my number 2 spot. In the Dark Knight wave, the Joker was the standout figure. If you saw my top 10 of all brands, Hasbro, Storm, everybody, everything I collect, then you saw the Joker, and you also saw my number 1 spot, Superman, based on his appearance in Injustice 2. I kind of went back and forth about whether or not I would change their positions from the original top 10, but in the end, it didn't really make any sense. They are my favorite figures, so the Joker number 2, Superman number 1. So there you have it, my total best of McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse figures for the year 2023. Is there anything you would add in? Anything you would take away? What were some of your favorites? Let me know in the comments below.